Welcome to the Art of Card Manipulation Volume 1. We're filming today at the lovely Chateau Falanga, nestled deep in the woods overlooking beautiful Lake Tahoe. A wonderful location for some wonderful magic. In this three-part series, it is my intention to share with you the card magic that I've learned in over 25 years of traveling the world. You will learn ways to enhance your present close-up routines with visually stunning magical moments, and I'll also teach you new ways to baffle and amaze your audiences with card productions, fans, and flourishes. So, let's get started. Welcome, and let's start with a basic color change. I use this color change every time I pick up a deck of cards and perform magic for somebody. I started out with the Ace of Spades already palmed in my hand. Before I even began the magic, I was almost finished with the manipulation. The card on top of the deck, the card to be changed, is held loosely. This permits the other card to get pushed on top of it. What I do is I draw attention to the top card. My other hand, with the palmed card, just passes over the deck, and I squeeze with the bottom of my thumb and the top of my fingers to align the card perfectly over the other card. Now I bring my hand away, almost creating the impression to the audience that I have a card in my hand, and I just wiggle my fingers and show the change. Again, from the side, start with the palmed card. The hand comes over top, aligns the card, and we're through. Almost every day of my life, I walk up to a group of people and say, "Would you please select a card out of the center of the pack?" I've found that using a thumb fan is a much more attractive way to have a spectator select a card than just pushing the cards forward like this. The way I make my thumb fan is I start with the deck just above my pinky, and my thumb about half an inch from the deck, from the bottom of the deck. My thumb is going to bevel the cards and push them in a circle. This makes the fan. Now to close the fan, what I'm going to do is create a pivot spot with my middle finger by moving it down, and I'm going to push the cards and pull them around with my other fingers. Again, to fan the cards, the thumb bevels the cards, making the circular motion, and to close the fan, the center finger, the middle finger, comes in, creates a pivot spot, and the rest of these cards are worked around the fingers until the fan is shut. Another method of fanning the deck is the pressure fan. Now, the pressure fan I use when I get a challenge from a spectator. Sometimes they come up to me during the show when I'm making close-up magic, and they say, "Are those trick cards? Are those your cards, or can you use any deck?" And I say, "Yes, I can use any deck." And they'll present me with a deck that's about this thick from sitting on the back bar at the restaurant for 15 years, and I can still squeak a fan out of this type of deck. Now, the pressure fan is called the pressure fan because you apply pressure to the cards like this. I leave my pinky free. The thumb goes at the back, bottom, left corner of the deck of cards. The cards are squeezed out and again in a circular motion. the pressure fan. This is the Charlier cut, or the one-hand cut. I use this in my close-up routine and also as a flourish on stage. The deck is held by the fingertips. I use my left hand. And the thumb is positioned at the side of the deck, very high up, not low, else you're not going to get much clearance. So the deck held at the fingertips, I bend my thumb and let about half the deck fall. Then my index finger pushes the deck back, letting the other deck fall. Then I clear my finger and let the rest of the deck fall. Again, slowly. The one-handed fan was the first fan that I ever learned how to do. I learned it by looking at a magician on TV and trying to figure out what he was doing. To make the one-handed fan, place the cards about half the deck in your palm. Get your index finger and your pinky on either side of the card. You're going to grip them like this. They should be able to stand free in there. The thumb goes to the back lower corner of the card and pushes up. Meanwhile, this finger moves around, the index finger, and pulls the cards down as far as they can go. Now, sometimes when you're first starting out, you'll just get a bar of cards, a straight line of cards. But with practice, and holding the cards firmly, and getting your thumb into the right position, all the way at the bottom left, slowly pushing up, and the fingers pull down. That's very important because that creates the curve of the fan. The thumb continues to push up. Now, to do this in both hands, start with the deck in your right hand. Break about half the pack off with your left thumb and rotate the cards around all the way. So now we have two blocks of cards facing each other. The thumb comes down and back, pushes up, fingers pull down. Same thing in this hand. Thumb pushes up, fingers pull down. Now you can push the cards together, making a riffling noise, and make the S fan. Slowly bring the cards back together and square them up. This is the one-handed fan and the S fan. Out of all the color changes in magic, the wink change is my personal favorite. The wink change is done by fanning one half of the deck and just passing it over one of the cards, and the card instantly changes. I'll show you how it's done from the side. The left fingers peel off one of the cards from the fan. Now you have to be careful on your angles on this one, but it's really worth the trouble. Now you hold the fan at an angle just above the card so the audience can't see it. With a little shake, your fingers are going to flip the card on the face and square it up. I use my index finger of my left hand to kind of square up the card. I'll show you again. And one more time. Now, a common problem is changing a jack of hearts into a jack of diamonds, and I'll show you how you get around that. At the start of the move, at the start of the color change, what you'll do is you'll hold the cards in your right hand. This is the card that's going to change, so you're going to riffle until you get to a contrast card. Let's say the Four of Hearts, a good contrast. Again, I revolve this block of cards around. The audience sees this card, the card that's going to be changed. I don't show this fan to the audience because they might spot that card. I just fan it out low. The left fingers peel off the card. The right hand fan creates a screen hiding the card. Just a little flick and the card is changed. Now, when you really get your angles down on this, you can bring that fan very far forward if you're doing it for one or two people. I prefer doing this to one person, a magician, late night in the convention lobby. And it gets a long distance effect. That is the wink change. One more time from the side, and one more time from the front. springing the cards. We've seen it in all those gambling sequences and the movies, and it's something that no card manipulation sequence is complete without. I spring the cards from the tips of my fingers. Other magicians prefer springing the cards off the thumb. I'll show you my method. I hold the cards at the extreme tips of my right fingers. The thumb curls around the back. My left hand creates a catcher's mitt. Now, when you start small. Just let the cards off one at a time. Try to get it smooth and even. Try not to get chunks of cards sporadically. By just practicing, releasing the pressure, moving the fingers back, you'll get the hang of it. This is also a very good exercise for practicing the pressure fan, springing the cards off the tips. It's almost the same action. After you get the basic move, you can build up your distance and your speed. The waterfall shuffle isn't really a shuffle. None of the cards change order, but it's been called the waterfall shuffle for years. To make this flourish, you're going to use the three fingers of your right hand and your thumb. Closing them simultaneously, you're going to create little pockets of air between each card. The fingers open incrementally at the same time, dropping each card in succession. Now the left hand is held like a cup underneath because the cards are going to come down in a straight line, unlike the springing of the cards. Again, squeeze the cards and then slowly open the hand. The more you practice, the more you'll be able to build up your height. Again, the hands come up and then down together. You're not just dropping the cards. You're starting with your hands together, moving up and down to catch the cards. This is the waterfall. The cards from the mouth is one of my favorite flourishes. I use it to close my own card routine. Now the way I perform this is I riffle palm the cards off the deck in my left hand. About 10-15 cards is fine. At the end of my card sequence or any routine that I'm doing, I'll set the rest of the deck down and I'll say, wait, I have one more. I point to my mouth, and as I open my mouth, the right hand is shown empty. The left hand goes up and pushes the cards up into the mouth. Then I do an S fan, the same fan that I would do if the cards were held the other way. I do it the long way. So as the cards stream out of my mouth, it's just making two one-handed fans to create the long chain of cards effect. And this is the cards from the mouth. Another tip I've learned from working in the real world is that when I'm breaking in a new piece of material, I always sandwich it between a very strong opener and a very strong closer. So, if you want to experiment with some of these new fans and color changes and flourishes that you're learning, place them in between your already established material, and this will keep you from falling on your face. Well, I'd love to do another card fan for you, but unfortunately this pack was in my pockets when I sent my pants to the cleaners, and when it came back, it had no spots on it, had no ink on it whatsoever. But let me try a little magic. There, much better, don't you think? This is known as the blank fan, and how this is accomplished is by taking the ace of diamonds and placing it on the face of the pack. Now, usually when we're fanning cards, we're fanning from the top down in the left hand, from left to right. In this fan, we take the cards in the other hand, the right hand, and we fan them from right to left. This will create the illusion of no spots, no ink on the cards. Now, I usually set this up away from the audience to take care of any little minor ink that's showing on the cards. But I'll set it up right in front of you right now. Now, what I do to cover the ace of diamonds is I place my thumb right on the pip of the card and cover the rest of the ink on the card along my thumb. So when I show the deck of cards to the audience, it looks like it has no ink on it. It's a simple matter then of squaring up the pack, cutting the cards, and then fanning it the normal way, creating an effect from going from a blank deck to a fully printed deck. The window change. I call this the window change because it's like a window opening, like Venetian blinds on a window. It's not a big motion or a fast motion. It's just a very subtle motion. Now, the way this change is accomplished is I thumb palm a card off the back of the deck, and I place it on the left fingers much in the same way that I do during the wink change. Be very careful on your angle with this particular card change. My fingers are going to lever the card up as my fingers on my right hand spring open, creating this effect. Very immediate and startling change. To get the card off the back, I place my thumb along the back card in the left hand and pull the deck away with my left hand, leaving the card in this kind of edge grip. Placing the card on the tips of the left fingers, opening the fingers, creating an instantaneous window change. The six of diamonds, the ace of spades. The Ed Marlowe snap change. I use this move as the final phase of a 4-ace routine where I produce 3 aces and I'm just about to get ready to produce the last ace and I get the wrong card. The audience goes, this magician isn't as good as we thought, until I blow on the card and change it. This is accomplished by using a double lift. You have the card that you want to change into on top, an indifferent card below it. Turn over the 2 cards as one. Grab the card with the thumb at the back with 2 fingers, the index finger and the middle finger on top, and the ring finger and the pinky in back. What you're going to be doing is just snapping the card by pushing the thumb forward and pushing the middle finger back. Now, this could look okay, dead on perhaps, but we have this angle problem to deal with here, so we have to clean this up. I clean it up by holding the cards right above the pack, so that when the card is snapped, when my thumb pushes forward and my middle finger pushes back, that card gets lined up right on top of the pack. My right hand continues forward, and the heat's off of this hand. So again, in slow motion, the ace of spades is on top, indifferent card underneath, double lift, slowly, from the side, the fingers push, and the cleanup. And one more time fast. Double lift. The snap change. One of the things that I learned very early on in my performing career was that I needed experience working for live audiences in the real world. But where to find these live audiences in the real world? The phone wasn't ringing off the hook every day. My father suggested that I do free shows for charitable organizations, hospitals, senior citizens' homes, Kiwanis clubs. And I started doing these shows, and not only did I get the experience, but I would also get not money, but I would get free publicity, pictures in the newspaper. What I didn't really need was the $5 or $10 for the birthday party show. What I really needed was the experience. Today, I still go out and look for different venues when I'm not touring my professional show to work in new material. I do benefit shows, I do fundraisers, I do small shows. I drop in at a magic convention and work on new material. Work as much as you can, for as many different types of audiences as you can, in as many different situations as you can, and then you'll be getting the experience you need to make magic in the real world. The Ken Brooks single production I first learned by reading Louis Ganson's Routine Manipulation series. Now, we've learned how to palm the card by now. I'll show you how to produce just the single card from this position. Hold the card in your palm. The middle finger is going to go underneath, just the middle finger, and pushes forward so the card is held with the middle finger behind and the other three fingers in front. Now, we're going to be doing this with more than one card. That's what gives it its very clean look, because we're producing all the cards as a block of one card. I'll show you the move with just two cards initially. The cards are palmed. The middle finger goes behind, bowing the card out. The other fingers keep tension on the card and produce both cards as one. Now, when you're first beginning this, the cards want to spread. But by repeated practice, you'll be able to produce those two cards as one. Now, you show the card, displaying both sides, trying to keep it as aligned as possible. The left hand comes over, takes both cards, and the card at the back is pushed back into the palm as this card is taken away, held at the fingertips, and then you can flick it out of the way. And then the next card is produced. We'll try it with three cards. Again, in the palm, the middle finger goes behind, producing all the cards as one card. The card is kept in motion, so if there's a little tiny bit of card showing, the speed at which you do it, not too fast, will hide that. The card is shown on both sides. You're going to just push back two cards back into the palm, peeling off the one card, flicking, producing, showing both sides. Again, I'll do it dead onto the camera. The finger comes out, the card is pushed back into the palm. The card is held, flicked away. The next production. Now you can do this with a stack of, I would say, no more than 7 cards. That's it gets very difficult. One of the touches I have on this is that after you get to the point where you can master the production like this, I move the pinky away and the ring finger, showing the card very openly if you keep enough tension on these cards. Like this. So after you've mastered the production with the fingers holding the card in the death grip to make sure it doesn't get away on you, then try producing the card and letting the fingers go. So it's just held between the thumb, the index finger, and the middle finger. The perfect production. I first learned about this production by reading Walter Gibson's complete illustrated book of card tricks, and it was in there I started working on the move. The person that taught me how to really perfect the perfect card production was Jeff Sheridan. Well, we've learned the Ken Brook single production. It's basically the same grip, although the cards are a little bit further down in the palm. You need the index finger free to do a lot of the work here. Because of the way the hand is tilted, it's not necessary that the card be completely hidden at the back. This is the position. What's going to happen here is the thumb is going to push the face card off the pack. That index finger is going to then clip it and frame it. The thumb moves down, touching the corner of the card. The card production can be done from the side, like this, or front on to the audience, like this. What's very important is to get that frame around the card, so the card comes out in a pretty picture frame of your hand. For doing this with both hands, riffle palm some of the cards into your left hand, getting it in position along the left middle finger, leaving the index finger and the thumb free to push the card forward. The thumb pushes the card, then the index finger comes down, pushes the card into position, and the thumb flips back. Let me get a few more cards here. You want the cards to be face up in the palm of your hand so they come out face up to the audience. With both hands, the production looks like this. It's also a very useful move for going around in a circle because it's not as angly as a back palm, so you can go around in a circle. This is a good production for very close quarters because your angles are minimalized because the cards are pointing towards the back. A few more cards for you. The thumb pushes forward, the index finger pushes down. Now Bobby Baxter does this move without the thumb at all. He just pushes down on the card with his index finger and gets the same result. You can build up to that eventually, but for when you're first beginning working on this move, push with your thumb. And that's the perfect production. The snap production. Unlike the perfect production, the cards are palmed in the hand face down, the back pointing up. With this production, the thumb pushes the card forward and up and then down. And it creates a pivot on the tip of the middle finger. In both hands, this is one of the prettiest productions there is, because it's just like pulling cards out of everywhere. And it's virtually angle-proof. Unlike the perfect production, the angles are much, much better for this production. In slow motion, the thumb pushes forward, the card springs up and then down. Up, then down. The important thing to remember is to pause after each card production, or else it looks like you're just pouring cards out of your hand. And then at the end, if you want, produce a fan. Now it's time for back palming. We've learned some fans, some flourishes, springing, some front hand productions. It's time for back palm productions. Now back palming starts with the card on the back of the hand. There is no back of the palm. And it's done by clipping the card between the index finger and the pinky. The middle finger and the ring finger hold the card just like that. The card, you don't want to have too much of the card showing, so bring it a little bit back. Now to bring the card into view, bend your fingers and the card comes against the middle finger, the thumb grabs it, so it's held just between these two fingers. To make it vanish, we just reverse the procedure, bringing the pinky underneath, the index finger on top, throwing the card up into the air. From the side, it looks like this. That's your first step on your way to back palm producing many, many cards. Again, the vanish and the production. That's a start. Like any of these moves, they're just notes, like in music. The moves are up to you to put together into phrases so you can make your own music and your own routines. That's the magic. The next card move we'll be learning is the pivot. Now, it's not a production or a card trick in itself. It's a utility move to be used in sequencing magic routines. The pivot is being able to show both sides of your hand with nothing and being able to produce the card. The way this is done is the card is in back palm position again between the index finger and the pinky, and the hand is going to bend. The middle two fingers swing through and push the card down so that the edges don't show. To reverse the procedure, the base of the thumb pushes on the card. The middle fingers move down, and again that thumb just pushes very slightly to make sure that there's no edge showing, so you can't really see the edges of the card. In a manipulation sequence, sometimes it's used to turn the body so you can produce the other way. It's not a trick in itself. Resist the impulse to walk around to your friends and say, "Look, there's nothing in my hand." This is known as magical malpractice because you will flash and it doesn't really look like a trick. It's a utility move. But it's something to start practicing now and to just take a card, place it in your hand, and while you're watching the rest of the series, where we get into more of the split fan productions, the single productions, and the more complicated card moves, you'll be able to have this move down so you can enjoy the rest of the card productions. So again, from the side, in slow motion, the fingers swing through, push down. On stage, from the audience's view, this side is shown, and the card is produced. That's the pivot. When I first started developing my close-up style, I was working in situations that weren't very conducive for patter or for little storytelling. I was working in rock and roll clubs and very loud parties, and my voice didn't carry over the music, and people didn't want to listen to somebody yelling over the music anyway. So I started developing ways to work with the music. And in the crowded clubs I was working in, I had to work on ways to get the people to watch me very quickly. So I started combining the card flourishes with close-up card magic, and this seemed to get people's attention. Most card magic that I grew up on was very intellectual in approach. You pick a card, it's lost in the deck, it's found. It's very intellectual. And the card flourishes appeal to the artistic side of magic, so it kind of interests both sides of the brain of the audience. So by combining the intellectual appeal of magic and also the flourishy artistic appeal, I had a much more potent form of close-up magic theater. And I'll share a little bit of that with you now.
Wonders of the world. You are about to witness the eighth.
Before I start my close-up card routine, I have to prepare. I take my 4 aces, give them a slight bend, and place them at the bottom of the deck face up. I take one indifferent card and place it covering them. Now I can lapel spread, or spread the cards from the top, and also, if I'm very careful, lapel spread the cards from the bottom as well. My aces being covered by my indifferent card. I just take the deck, shuffle off that bottom card to the top, and I'm ready to go with the hip-hop pop-out move. I usually open my close-up routine with what I call the hip-hop pop-out move. Now, originally this is the Piet Fortin pop-out move, but I learned it wrong. The original Piet Fortin move, you have the card slightly bent. It helps you get your break. 4 aces, slightly bent on the bottom of the deck. Face up with the face-down deck on top. What I'm doing is I'm pushing down with my thumb to get a break under one of the cards. My other hand comes around and takes off half the deck. So you look like this. The original Piet Fortin move was with gravity. You would let gravity carry the card down. I didn't know that. When I first saw the move, my impression was that the card just shot out of the deck. So I worked out my own method. Now you have your aces on the bottom of the pack. To get ready, you place your index finger of your left hand down on top of the deck, and you get your break. Now what I do is I whip the card very quickly in an outward motion to shoot it out, and then I trap it between the two halves of the deck. Like that. Again, this helps you get ready. The thumb presses down. I whip it forward, kind of in a C motion. Boom. And there it is. Not gravity. Now, to get my next break, what I do is I look around the table for somewhere to put the card. I place my finger on top of the deck, and that's when I'm doing my get ready move back here, pushing my thumb down on the card. And when I finally get my break, I set the card down and I'm ready for the next card. That's the Piet Fortin hip-hop pop-out, as I call it. Paul LaPaul was a great card manipulator, both on stage and close-up, and he invented the LaPaul spread, a beautiful way of having a spectator select a card. The way I accomplish this, and it's going to be a little different for everyone, is I hold the deck against the pad of my thumb, suspended above the palm, and the edges and the tips of my fingers just on the edge of the deck. There's space between the deck and my fingers to let the cards bow down slightly. Notice how my fingers are bending inward. They're not out like this. This creates a springing action. The cards spring off the hand. You might want to try just springing the cards, like in the hand-to-hand springing. The thumb goes on top of the deck. The right fingers go underneath to help support the cards as they come off, creating a very beautiful even spread. Again, from the side, pressure. Notice my fingers are bent inwards, and the top of the card is just along the edge of my fingers. My thumb to the corner, bottom left. My right fingers support the cards as the cards are pushed, sprung off from the heel of my hand, supported by my fingers. One more time in real time, the LaPaul spread. A table spread, much simpler spread to create. The cards are spread on the table and flipped over with the left hand. It's very important to put even pressure with the index finger on the sides of the cards. The cards are held by my thumb and my 2 middle fingers. My index finger is at the front. My hand pushes down and spreads them evenly, my index finger regulating the cards that come off. Pick up the left card, push it over, and the cards will slowly pyramid over into the other hand, and then you can push them back and sweep them up. Another variation on this is to take a card off of each end, bring it to the center, and you can make twin peaks by splitting them in the center and then bringing them back together. During the course of my close-up act, after I produce the aces, I lose them in the deck and I find them again. I use, for my control, the Carmen D'Amico multiple shift. I accomplish this by making a thumb fan in my right hand. When I make the fan, I make sure that there are a number of cards. Most of the deck still remains on top, and the bottom part of the fan is spread very thin. I then take the cards, the aces, and place them at different points in the fan. Now I still have many cards remaining on top. The ace is separated by only a few cards. When I square up the deck, notice that those cards are towards the bottom. That's where I want them to stay. Holding the deck with my left hand with the thumb on one side and two fingers on the other side, my index finger at the front, I let go of a little bit of pressure with my thumb and some of the top cards will fall forward. This gives me the camouflage, the cover, to strip out with my thumb and middle finger the aces that are in the deck. Bringing them all to the bottom, I continue Hindu shuffling, and now I have all four aces delivered on the bottom of the deck. This original concept was created by Steve Beam, and I put a couple of my little touches on it, and I call it the Auto Magic Aces. Now, Steve Beam is very clever, and he created a very animated card revelation. It's very surprising and very magical. I control four aces to the bottom of the deck using the Carmen D'Amico multiple shift, and then I just shuffle them to the top of the pack as I turn. I riffle two cards off very subtly into my left hand. My right hand then, with my index finger, I swivel cut about half the deck on top of those aces. So I have two aces in my left hand and two aces in my right hand. As my hands come together, I swing to the side. My left fingers just push up one of the aces, so the audience can't see it. I'm exposing it for you now. Now I hold a break. I have two aces on the top, one ace on the face of this pack, and one ace on the back of this pack. The move is done by taking the thumb and middle finger and holding the left packet like this. My left index finger is going to go onto the back of the right hand pack and swivel the card up. Simultaneously, my right thumb is going to push down and swivel down the card, the ace, on the face of my left hand pack. Simultaneously, takes a little bit of practice, one, then the other, and I try to make it look like they're coming out at the same time. I remove my fingers, close my break. I don't need the break anymore. Now I have one card here, the other card sticking down, two aces at the back. Now, I push one card forward, the top card of the pack, then peel it back. This is my get ready for my final ace. I place it slightly back by pushing it with my left finger. Now I'm going to get the third ace to appear by pushing it and moving it and walking it out a little bit with my index finger. The middle finger takes over and holds the card in place. My index finger then pushes back, 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 and it'll naturally swivel up because you're pushing your index finger into the extreme corner and pushing that card all the way up. There's a beautiful old book named Tricks of the Masters by Will Goldston. It has a beautiful section on fanning cards. And that's where I discovered this old gem, the card flower. Take an old deck, not your good brand new Faro deck, take it and cut it in half. Turn the top half upside down and place it on the lower half and bend the cards. You really bend the cards. Try not to crease them here. That screws it up a little bit too much. Go back through the deck and cut at your break. Now we're going to perform a Faro shuffle. I hold one half of the deck in each hand at my fingertips with my thumb at back. I'm going to weave the cards together using my pinky as a guide and using my left index finger to help me get an even, there we go, an even weave. It's just a little bit of practice you can get that weave. Well, not a little bit of practice, a lot of practice. Now you see the cards are bent in sort of an S shape. I increase that S shape and push the cards together. This makes the accordion because every other card is convex and concave. I set the cards on my hand and slowly open, creating the card flower. In performing close-up card magic or even stand-up magic in the real world, you're going to run into situations where you're asked to perform and the music is playing very loud. In many of the situations that I work in, there's a live band playing at the other end of the room at a party, or the nightclub has disco music going, and still people want to see magic, and you can't go into a long-winded close-up routine. What I've done is, at home, I practice to different types of music. I'll put on a classical album and practice my repertoire. I'll put on a jazz album and practice my repertoire. I'll put on rock and roll music and just jazz flourishes. This gives me a very large range of musical styles in my arsenal when I walk into a performance situation. Now, along with the music, style and fashion are very important in social gatherings. I'll share with you a little tip that a New York City hipster shared with me years ago. He said, "Jeff, always dress like you're going somewhere better later." That means always dress like the most interesting person in the room, like you've got better things to do perhaps later on in the evening. This will create an aura of magic and mystery around you. So, practice to different types of music and look sharp when you go out in public, and you'll be able to handle almost any situation. Now, the Roy Benson move is this. The hands are shown empty, very cleanly, and a card is produced. Now, this, you don't have to do a whole lot of gyrations because the psychology of the movement of the hands gives the impression to the spectator that you're showing both sides of your hands. Again, the card is clipped in the back palm without the edges showing. The hands hinge at the blades. They shut, now they hinge at the thumbs. Maybe one more time down. And now you produce the card the same way you did in the back palm production. You reach up and produce the card. And then you bring your fingers back to this position. Let me show you what's going on from behind. The card stays in one place, the hand swings down, hands come together, and now they hinge up on the thumbs. Now, there are a few methods of producing the card. You can produce it just like in the back palm production by pulling it up with your thumb and then getting your hands back into position real quickly. Another method, which is a little bit easier for beginners, is to just bend your fingers in and to push the card out straight. Just bend the fingers in and push the card out straight. It looks very nice if your thumbs don't do a whole lot of moving around during this production. Now, for the advanced that want to get this move perfectly after you've mastered those two ways of doing it, is to be able to produce the card at the fingertips straight up and down. Now, this is done by crossing the fingers, much like you would say, "good luck." And it's done very fast. Now, when I produce the card, whether it be in the Roy Benson move or just pulling it out of the air, I always give the impression to the audience that there's a pocket in the air. This is my inner dialogue, and I'm reaching into an invisible pocket in the air and pulling that card out, so it doesn't give the impression that the card is just springing up off the back of my hand. We don't want that now, do we? So, boom. And that pull creates the illusion that the card is coming out of the air. Again, from the side, crossing the fingers, and from the back. That's the Roy Benson move. Oh, and one more thought. This is a great way to present your business card. Again, be very careful of your angles. But at a social gathering, when you're just about to meet somebody, say, "Wait, I have something for you." My card. It's just a nice little touch to make a business connection. Mastering the sleights and flourishes in this series will take years, and sometimes you might wonder whether it's all worth the bother. I know for years I've been wondering whether there was a deeper meaning hidden in the cards other than just tricks or moves. Well, once a year, at a remote retreat center in upstate New York, magicians from all over the world gather at what is known as the Mystery School, a retreat where we study the inner meanings of magic as well as the symbolic and theatrical aspects of our art. The Dean of Mystery School, Eugene Berger, is always quick to remind us that magicians already know enough tricks and moves that don't have any meaning. They're just disembodied sleights. How do we give our magic meaning? How do we transcend the trick and make the magic meaningful for our audience? Well, perhaps if we put our magic in a theatrical context, by combining it with storytelling, by adding our personal experiences, we can share our magic with our audiences and make it more meaningful. I'd like to thank a few people connected with this series for helping make this a meaningful experience for me. Michael Amar, I'd like to thank him for giving us permission to use his super practice sessions. I think it's a great way to learn magic. I'd like to thank all the magicians in my life that have taught me these moves, taught me these sleights, and I've been using them for years. Just by sharing my magic with people has given me personal meaning in my life. It's been my intention when I started thinking about creating these tapes to create a set of tapes collecting all of the different information that I've collected over the years and being able to present it to the magicians of the future in hopes that perhaps you out there will find deeper meaning in the cards and deeper meaning in your lives.